Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you all.
We miss you.
We miss you.
We miss you.
We miss you.
We miss you and can't wait to see you in the center.
Welcome to the William Way LGBT Community Center Pride Month Thank You event. I can't thank each of you enough for all that you've done to help the center thrive during this last quarter when we face some of the biggest challenges of our 50-year history. Despite the challenge of an unprecedented health crisis, coupled with the understandable political foment following the murder of George Floyd, the center has remained focused on our mission during these past 3 months when the path to success was far from clear. Well, due to the support of friends like you, we've emerged at the end of our fiscal year in a better position than we could have imagined. Despite losses in rental and program revenue, we received very generous support from you to make sure that we did not have to lay off any staff or reduce our programs. In addition to individual support, many foundations have increased their support to us to help us thrive during this time of change. Though the center's building itself has been closed to the public, we swiftly moved our programs online, and in some ways, the center has been more visible than ever. We created online educational programs, moved our peer counseling program online, and increased our services to LGBT seniors. We helped sponsor a citywide march called Queer March for Black Lives, which attracted hundreds of marchers to the Benjamin Franklin Parkway to say that our community stands in solidarity with the current civil rights battles in our city and nationwide. We also continue to play our traditional role in providing a place for both community grieving and celebration. This past month, we co-sponsored a grieving event for the community following the murder of well-known trans activist Dominique Remy Fells. It was an honor to spend time with other community leaders as we acknowledged the huge loss, as well as recommitting to the work Remy did to create a more affirming and supportive culture for its trans leaders. I'm also proud to say that we've helped to create a new space for community leaders statewide to come together to address the needs of our diverse communities. Just last week, we received a grant of $10,000 from the Bread and Roses Community Fund to invest in this daily call and to support its leaders so that we can continue to motivate and inspire a new generation of leaders who are already taking over the reins during this transformative time in our history. You've already contributed to us via your time, talent, and treasure, but I did want to let you know some of the ways that you can participate in our work over the upcoming months. We welcome your voice and vision. First, think about joining us for one of our Friday 8:30 a.m. all-hands Zoom meetings. We're busy planning out the renovations and new construction to our building. We anticipate a 2 to 3 year time frame for completing the building project, and we'd love your help in helping us imagine the next steps for our historical headquarters on Spruce Street. Secondly, join us for one of our twice-weekly Queering the Quarantine Arts and Culture seminars. We present great thinkers in our communities sharing about different aspects of our arts and culture. If you have an idea about someone who could present for one of these sessions, let us know and we'll try to set it up. Thirdly, do you know someone who's struggling with isolation or depression during these difficult times? Think about referring them to our online peer counseling program. Folks can schedule up to 8 free sessions to have a trained peer counselor listen to them and connect them to available resources. It's a great opportunity during these trying times. And perhaps you yourself have an idea for a new program or service that you see as needed. Please do drop me a line at cbartlett@waygay.org. That's cbartlett@waygay.org. I promise to get back to you and discuss your idea. Some of our best program ideas have come from members of our communities like you. I think you'll agree with me that one of the things we need most now is a sense of community, but even more, a reality of community who will stand by us when we are in trouble or need help. That's what the William Way Community Center stands for right now. Thank you through your generosity for making it all possible. And please stay close to the center and let us know how we can help. Thank you.
A cautious crew of queers, browbeaten on the street, slipped off the path to avoid the wrath in a bar of their own called Stonewall. It was a nasty haven, fragile place to meet, where they could touch and inhale too much beer and cologne at Stonewall. In the 60s, love was getting bolder, smiling hippies with flowers in their hair. But dykes and fags watched over their shoulder at the danger lurking there. The mayor and the cardinal, the judges and the cops, ranted and raved at the way the queers behaved. They wouldn't even leave them alone at Stonewall. Another raid on a hot June night, but the queens drew the line at this tacky joint. Enough was enough, so they started to fight, defending a dive, making a point. They took up bricks and bottles, took up purses and heels. Who makes a scene like an angry queen? A scene that soon became known as Stonewall. Some explained it as drag queen pride, or that queens were the ones least able to hide. Some were convinced they had God on their side, or maybe it was Judy Garland died, or maybe because the Bill of Rights lied. Some say everything else had been tried. They took up bricks and bottles, took up purses and heels. Who makes a scene like an angry queen? A scene that will always be known as Stonewall. Stonewall.
My name is John Andrews, and I'm the director of the John J. Wilcox Jr. Archives at William Way LGBT Community Center. I'd like to thank you for your generous support of the center at this crucial time in our organization's history. Your support has allowed us to transition to remote programming during the pandemic and to keep all of our staff employed and working from home during this difficult time. I've been asked to talk a bit about then and now in an archival context. I'd like to use my time and position of considerable privilege to introduce you to and celebrate some important people related to Black queer history. Those from the past who have been subject to oppression and discrimination, or who have fought tirelessly for our rights. And those from the present who are working to build a more just and equitable future. First up, I'd like to introduce you to Marvina Frippi, who was born September 28, 1928, here in Philadelphia. Marvina was brought to my attention by one of my former interns, Colin McCrossan, who found her in the archived pages of the Philadelphia Tribune, the city's preeminent Black-owned newspaper founded in 1884. Marvina was lauded in the newspaper as the queen of female impersonators, and is pictured in 1962 in female attire in an expose on her 34th birthday party, which took place at Sunny and Lucky's Tavern on 52nd and Haverford Avenue. Marvina also appears in the pages of the Tribune several more times, including for being arrested on morals and larceny charges inside another bar, Brick Clark's 4-6 Club at 52nd Street and Spruce, just a week after her birthday bash. Marvina was represented in court by famed civil rights attorney Cecil B. Moore and was exonerated of the charges. There is much more to say and discover about Marvina, how she negotiated gender norms of the time, how she is portrayed in the press, how she was likely harassed and subjected to violence at the hands of the police. But I want to emphasize that there is so much just waiting to be discovered about queer Black Philadelphians of the past, and resources like the Philadelphia Tribune, administrative records of the city, and even genealogical records can intersect with those we collect at William Way to help us to understand more fully what it was like to be Black and queer in the past. I'd also like to introduce you to Anita Cornwell. Cornwell was born in South Carolina in 1923 and moved to Pennsylvania as a young girl. She attended Temple University, where she studied journalism and the social sciences. She spent her life as a journalist and author, writing prolifically for a number of local and national radical, Black, feminist, and lesbian and gay newspapers and magazines. Over the course of her career, she produced articles, reviews, essays, interviews, poetry, and plays, and her work is also found in several important anthologies from the 1970s through the 1990s. Cornwell's most well-known book is Black Lesbian in White America, published by Naiad Press in 1983, and includes an important interview with her friend, Black lesbian feminist author Audre Lorde. We are lucky to have the personal and literary papers of Anita Cornwell, having received them shortly after she moved into assisted living in Germantown. Cornwell's papers tell us a great deal about what it was like to be an outsider in a white person's world in the 1970s and 1980s, as well as the networks that bound together Black queer women like Cornwell, Lorde, Barbara Smith, and others. The papers also concern topics including her family's escape from the pervasive poverty and racism of the South, the corruption and bureaucracy of government officials, and sexist hierarchies that serve to limit the achievement of women. Talking about Cornwell and her papers allows me to pivot from the past to the present and talk about one of our interns, Ainsley Akins. Ainsley is processing the Anita Cornwell papers for the archives, a project they've been working on over the past year. It's a voluminous collection of over 20 linear feet, and Ainsley has been doing a fantastic job on it. Ainsley grew up in Virginia before attending Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, where they majored in African American studies. Ainsley moved to Philadelphia in 2018 in order to teach in one of the charter schools here. We were able to fund the start of Ainsley's work through a grant we received from the Pennsylvania Abolition Society. Yes, the one founded in Philadelphia in 1784 that worked tirelessly for the end of slavery. Well, it is alive and well today and continuing to do good work combating racism. Since Ainsley started working for us, not only have they become an authority on Cornwell, but they've also become excellent in the art of archival processing. Last year, Ainsley was hired by the Free Library of Philadelphia to work on an archival processing project in the Children's Literature Department, and soon they will begin work as a reference assistant at our neighbor organization, the Library Company of Philadelphia. And if that weren't enough, I'm so pleased to say that Ainsley is applying to enter library school in the fall. Finally, I want to introduce you to our newest member of the archives team, intern Ruby Anderson. Ruby is a Philadelphia native who returned to the city after graduating from Oberlin College in 2019. Ruby won us over in interviews for our first internship in our new community archives program, which is seeking to build collections and relationships with underrepresented communities, especially women, people of color, and trans folk. Before the pandemic hit, Ruby had scoured our collections for all evidence of materials related to Black lesbians. Of course, this included the Anita Cornwell collection, but Ruby ferreted out much more that we didn't even know we have. She was able to identify all of the periodical titles we have that center or have significant content on Black lesbians. And she identified numerous entries in our ephemera files featuring that same content. Ruby's research guide on Black lesbian materials in our collection will be a boon for future researchers who walk into the archives and wonder what we've got on the topic. Ruby has continued throughout the pandemic to do great work for us from home. She's developed protocols for us to begin a rapid response collecting program that will pay those from underrepresented communities to help us gather ephemeral materials we might not otherwise know about. And most recently, she's been helping with a project to do web archiving of queer organizational responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are so grateful to have the skills, knowledge, enthusiasm, and labor of both Ruby. We are so grateful to have the skills, knowledge, enthusiasm, and labor of both Ruby and Ainsley. We literally couldn't do the kind of work we want to do, need to do, without them. Your generosity has helped us to keep going during such a difficult time and will continue to allow us to document and interpret figures like Marvina Frippy, Queen of the Female Impersonators, or the Black lesbian feminist Anita Cornwell. It will allow us to continue to support the work and future careers of young queer people like Ainsley and Ruby. Thank you again. Your generous support for William Way has been and continues to be invaluable.
Once we had a secret world, privacy was our profession. We had a code of conduct, no eyewitness, no confession. Once we were Nels and Sallys, and a barmaid went by Jack. We knew our way around the alleys, the front door was always in the back. We had our code words and costumes, pinky rings, bow ties, pearls. The boys were duchesses and queens, the dukes and earls were girls. We watched the show from the background, dreaming of love would arrive. A fellow traveler sometimes could be found to keep our dream alive. When did the shrinking violets start to bloom and the bearing of their hearts become a trend? They tell all their secrets and some of mine as well. I want this new beginning to end. Discretion is a dirty word, flaunting has become the rage. Is love not real till all have heard? My life won't be played out on the stage. Kids want it all on the table. Where's that subtle game of hearts? To earn us all a label, they share their private parts. Everyone is asking and everyone is telling. It used to be whispering, now it's yelling. I may be a dinosaur, but still I posit life was better, so much better. Life was better in the closet.
Hi everyone, I'm Sue Gilday, co-chair of the William Way Board of Directors. On behalf of my fellow co-chair Chad Bundrock and our entire board, thank you again for your continued support of the Center. Your participation in the recent Way Forward breakfast event and your donations allow us to continue our mission, programming, and services even though our doors are closed. We're also grateful to today's entertainment as they provided a much-needed break from the ever-changing world around us. We know that there is much unfinished work to be done. This past Sunday, many of us marched in solidarity for Black Lives Matter. We stand together and support our Black, brown, and trans family and friends. Our programming, services, and recently opened Trans Resource Center exist for all in need, especially marginalized groups. When people need information, resources, and connection, we are available to our diverse LGBT communities. Our 3 areas of focus, arts and culture, empowerment, and community connections, allow each of us to continue to grow and educate those around us. Knowledge is power, and the Center will continue to serve those in need 365 days a year. The Center is operating virtually through Zoom sessions, social media, and our website. Our social media presence continues to grow through our twice a week, Queering the Quarantine segments. Our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram followers increase with each week, although we're still not as popular as Leslie Jordan, but we do aspire to be. We're also partnering with our friends at the DMH Fund to provide fresh food and much-needed supplies for our 56 households at the John C. Anderson LGBT-friendly apartments. Our virtual Pride Run just ended, and COVID did not stand in its way. Through the generosity of former board members An Dang, Cece Thais, and Bob Lenahan, Pride masks continue to be produced and over $11,000 has been raised through the event. Last year we celebrated Stonewall's 50th anniversary. I'm not sure about you, but I did not anticipate being where we are today at this point in time. However, through our strategic planning, vision, feedback gathering, and commitment, our board and staff will continue to work hard on your behalf to deliver timely programming and services to the greater LGBT community in Greater Philadelphia. Thank you again for continuing to lead by example and show why Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. Stay safe and don't forget to get in the way.